great to see all of you again. I'm Lana Kay, and today we have a very, very important topic for you. Today we'll be discussing foster care. With us is an attorney. She's in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. Her name, Donna Bloemer. Welcome to the program, Donna. It's so nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Donna, first of all, your practice is family law, or predominantly family law.
It is.
So, and that's probably what got you so involved with the foster system.
It did.
Would that be right? And so tell us a little bit about what is a foster child?
A foster child is anyone who has been removed from their biological parents in the state of Kentucky. Once they are removed, they are appointed an attorney. It's often known as a guardian ad litem, who looks out after their best interests and who will follow that child through the system just to make sure that they are getting all the services that they need.
Very good. Now, Donna, you're affiliated with a organization out of Fort Mitchell, and that would be the help me, Donna, DCCH Center.
It is.
Okay. And there is a lot of help if you're thinking about fostering a child. I attended a seminar, a one-night seminar with Ron Birch, who I know that you know
Yes.
very well. And they give all kinds of foundational support and help. So tell us a little bit about that, Donna, and your affiliation with the DCCH Center.
I have been privileged to serve on the DCCH Center for Families and Children, which is also located in Fort Mitchell. They were formerly known as the Diocesan Catholic Children's Home, which is what a lot of people still recognize
Yes.
them as. They began as an orphanage many, many years ago, and Sister Jean Marie Hoffman was the executive director and really saw the residential program grow. But they recognized the need to support foster children, and so now they have a wonderful therapeutic foster care recruitment program, and they offer ongoing support for families who are interested in fostering children.
Donna, what is the goal of fostering children?
Some people really take it as their mission to simply foster children, to be that forever home for children who need it. Some people take the next step and go on and adopt the children. So some people just see it as their mission to merely foster children and provide that stability until they can return home to their parents. And other times, if termination of parental rights occurs, then the family will take the next step and adopt the child.
Oh, and that's of course very, very, very wonderful for you and Ron and all the people involved. Now, the foster system numbers are increasing at an alarming rate, Donna, and tell us about that.
Unfortunately, heroin has really had an impact on the number of children who have been removed from their biological families. If parents are using drugs while in a caretaking role, it's really difficult to properly care for their children, and so the number of removals have increased immensely. The system does its best to place children with other family members, but if there aren't other family members available, then those children will go into the foster care system.
Okay, Donna. Now, how do we find these children that are in peril?
If you suspect a child is being neglected or abused, you can make a report to the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, and so there is an intake line that you can call and report, and generally the social workers will get involved and do an investigation.
So that could be by anyone in the community, if you're a neighbor.
That is correct.
A teacher, and anybody that. And neglect. Tell us, a lot of people understand abuse if they see physical signs, but just neglect. What could be some signs of neglect, Donna?
If a child is not being properly cared for, if they don't have proper clothing, if they're not being fed correctly, a lot of times if a child's not attending school daily or on time, there's something wrong, and there'll be a report called into the cabinet who does an investigation.
Okay, so what outside of the heroin and drug problem, what other things go wrong at home that they are unable to help be there for their children? What else goes on?
Well, we really see, unfortunately, a lot of times the impact of drugs, and oftentimes that'll lead to domestic violence, to poverty issues where people don't have the necessities of life to care for their children. Oftentimes there'll be mental health issues that are impacting. And so you really see the slippery slope, and a lot of children are really impacted by a variety of issues.
Okay, so Donna, um, the children are discovered by anyone in the community. Now, what if a family qualifies for foster care? And tell us about that first. How do they qualify?
Well, the DCCH Center will provide a great deal of training and ongoing support for families. So if someone is interested, they can go to the monthly meet and greets and learn a little bit more about the services that they offer. You can also go to dcchcenter.org to look at the website for additional information. So they carefully screen their families. There's an extensive training program that they go through, and then they provide ongoing support.
Yes, and that's so important to be so. I mean, this may be a question that is a little bit different for you, but so this child gets to a foster home that's loving and all, and now the parents have rehabbed, they're back, and so what if the child doesn't want to go back?
Well, the goal of the case initially is always return to parent, and so services are provided to the parent in order to help them regain custody.
Okay,
and so that's the goal at the beginning. If after a lengthy period of time the parent isn't making lifestyle improvements, they will look to change the goal for that child from return to parent to adoption.
Okay, so the caseworker or whoever is assigned to this child, she will keep up after their return to their biological parents. They
Yes.
will still be screened and making sure everything's okay there, because there's so many relapse. There's so much relapse with drugs. So they are carefully monitored.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Now, is foster care the most likely path to adoption, Donna?
It is, and generally most parents start out by fostering a parent, and I've seen a lot of foster parents just fall in love
Yes.
with these children, and then they will proceed and take the next step and adopt them. And it's really, I think, the only happy thing we do in family law.
Is when that happens, when they fall in love, and of course then the child's in love with them, and then it all works out, and there's a happy ending.
It is.
And I know that's a good balance, because I asked Ron at the meeting, how do you stand the emotional upheaval of all this, and he says, because then when there's a silver lining, it's great. When it all works out, that balances, and I'm sure it does for you too.
It does.
And the children need help, no matter how sad it is. Somebody has got to help the children.
I think you really have the ability to make a difference in a child's life.
Oh, that is so great. Older children are less likely to be fostered, and that's a shame. Is it like, do you see that in what age is like the cutoff where it's more difficult to foster them out?
Oftentimes, I think it's more difficult to find permanent placement for teenagers, but we have seen some wonderful stories about teenagers who have been successfully adopted and really turned the corner because of the parents who were providing such good care for them.
Oh, that's such a good feeling, because if it doesn't happen and they don't get fostered out, then these children are more likely to have a pregnancy and just not do well at all if they can't get a good send-off. Because how many times have we heard of an athlete or somebody else that has succeeded against terrible odds, against defeating odds, and they said, but my teacher believed in me, my grandmother, some person took an interest. So, and that's why I was able to do so well. So that's, again, probably the case with this.
It is.
They've taken an interest, they're supporting that child. That is just so wonderful. So then, as you come to the house and you check it out, what if some families say, we want to do it, they're qualifying, but we don't have enough funds, we don't have the money to do this? Then what happens?
Oftentimes the state will offer a subsidy to families who are willing to foster children. And so there is medical care coverage provided as well as additional subsidies to help them care for that child.
So is that always the case? I mean, will the medical always be there?
Yes.
Okay, that is great, because that's a big incentive to know that the burden, so many people are struggling now, the whole burden is not on the that gives them more chances.
Yes,
when you
it
say
does.
to be adopted. Okay. So now let's see, Donna, what else do I have for you? Without discouraging the potential for foster parents, because we don't want to do that for sure. But it is very responsible. This is endeavor. I mean, it's very important that they realize how important this is. The child's already been shook up. I mean, you tell us this part, how important it is to not just take this lightly.
I think it's really important for families to consider their own situations and to make this commitment, not lightly, but recognizing that a lot of times these kids have been through a really tough time. And so it is an impact on both the foster mother and the foster father, as well as any other children that they may have in the home. And so it's really an important decision, but I've oftentimes seen families go through the process and really make the decision that's best for their family. And I found that once people commit, they usually do a beautiful job of fostering.
Because they've thought this out, they've been through their classes. Now tell us about that. Is it a 30-hour class that must be attended? Tell us about that.
It's a 14-week program, and so they meet one night a week, and occasionally they'll offer the class on Saturday morning. So they're very in-depth, intensive classes, and they're offered on a variety of topics. And so I feel like the foster families who go through the training are really well equipped to help meet the needs of this child.
Yeah, because this is all taken very, very seriously by everybody involved, and I think that's so great. Now, the foster parent can also receive a break, and I found this by attending Ron Birch, his program.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Sometimes it's really tough to be a foster parent all of a sudden, and so there is respite care provided. So if either the child is struggling or if the foster parents, had another commitment, if they become ill or if they have an event that they needed to attend,
right,
there is respite care provided just to give everybody that needed break.
Mm-hmm. And so are the respite families, are they trained?
They are trained.
They are trained. And the foster would realize, I'm just going here for a while,
yes,
for a few days or a week or whatever the crisis is with the foster family.
Right.
Well, I think that's wonderful. So there's always a break. I mean, if you're thinking this is huge, but what if something comes up? We have these families in place.
Yes.
Is it hard to attain those families to help out?
No, I think a lot of people recognize that they can't necessarily foster for a long, long period of time, but they're certainly able to do a weekend or a week or two.
Right.
And so those backup families are always available if a child is in need.
Oh, that is so good, Donna. Donna, now you've seen so many cases come through. Can you give us a case that touched your heart and made you, you're so happy, made you go over the moon with happiness that this worked out?
I'm privileged to see some cases when I represent a child through the dependency, abuse, and neglect action, and then represent them in the termination of parental rights action, and then finally to attend court on the day that they are finally adopted. Those are some of my favorites, to get to follow a child all the way through the system. Sometimes it takes a long time because these cases do not move quickly. The dockets are very full, and so sometimes I almost feel like I got to watch a kid grow up in many ways.
Yes.
And finally to see them be adopted is a really neat thing, especially when they're older.
Is there a cutoff to the foster care, to the time spent with the foster?
There is not. A child can go through the foster care system all the way up until they're 18.
No, I mean with one family, that this family now has had this child for a year. I mean, can they stay with them until adoption? Can they stay with that one family until 18, or is that considered not foster care anymore?
They can stay as long as the family is willing. Traditionally, the goal will start changing after around a year.
Oh,
and it's
okay.
And so it's usually about 15 out of the last 22 months is the federal standard when the court needs to start looking at different options for this child if they're not going to return to their biological parents.
Oh, okay, sure.
But they'd
be trying to get back there, but if that wasn't working out and they'd been here 15 months, then they would start looking closely at what can we do here.
But they can stay with that foster family as long as the foster family is willing to have them.
Okay, that is so good. What if the child, is the caseworker, is someone coming to check on the foster family and the child, how they're doing together?
Yes, generally the social workers come once a month, and the guardian ad litem, who is appointed the attorney for that child, can visit them.
Okay, that's great. What if the child becomes unhappy? Not the foster parents particularly, but what if the child becomes unhappy for some reason?
That is all taken into consideration, and they can either let their attorney or their social worker know.
They would, when they came over, and would they would have private time with that child to say,
yes.
I'm just not happy here.
I always meet with my clients individually.
Oh yes, I would think, sure, because they don't want to say that something's wrong right out in front of everybody, but you should know.
Yes.
Okay, what happens when it doesn't work out? What's the main thing that happens when they take a child and it's not working out?
If it's not a good fit, they will look at an alternative placement. And so it's not always the first placement that they find for a child that's the best. Sometimes there can be a couple moves, but I'm always amazed because kids oftentimes will email me or they'll text me and just to check in to let me know how everything's going. So there are other options for that child.
Okay, and they know that you're there.
To be their voice in the system.
Okay,
is the way I always explain
it. Well, that makes me happy to know that the child can become unhappy too, not just the foster parents, but sometimes as much as you think it will fit, it just doesn't.
Right.
Now, if they're siblings, do you try to keep them together if possible? If there is a whole family, let's 3 children removed from one family.
They do. They always do their best to keep brothers and sisters in the same household.
That is so wonderful. So Donna, we're almost out of time. It has flown. In closing, any last thoughts that you want to convey to our viewers?
If anybody is considering becoming a foster parent, I would definitely urge you to contact DCCH and just come and attend one of the meetings and just find out a little more about it. I don't think you have to be extraordinary parents to be really good foster parents. I think you just have to have love for a child and that they would do a wonderful job.
Oh, I think that's great. Donna, just one more thing before we close out. Our baby boomers, they've raised children. They're empty nested now. Can they qualify?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, good. I was hoping that we weren't, or those baby boomers I know could be considered. So they could be.
Yes.
Yeah, they would be great because after all, they've already raised kids. They've got a big house sometimes, and they would be perfect. So. Thank you for being with us today, Donna. We have learned so much.
Thank you for having me.
About the system. You've been listening to Donna Bloemer. She is an attorney in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. Her contact information will follow. Also, we want to put up the DCCH Center, which Donna is affiliated, also out of Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. And if you can find it in your heart to foster some of these darling children, it would mean so very, very much to them. So I hope you enjoyed the show. I love being with Donna. Until next time, be happy, keep smiling, and I'll see you soon.